Mark, I want to ask you a few questions from small trader perspective. Ashwin is anyways a very big trader and is making good money. So he's asking you questions as a professional, but I still
Yeah.
want to go and ask basics. So there are many people with small capital these days. And thanks to COVID, not many people have come in the system. And they're using instruments like options, crypto to trade. Because they have small capital, they can't trade heavy instruments like cash market or futures. Any suggestions you have for them with small capital? Can they think of becoming big with small capital?
Are you saying small cap stocks?
No, I'm talking about small capital.
Oh,
People
small capital. Yeah,
with
small
small
traders.
capital
Yeah.
there. And they're
Yes.
using leverage instruments like options and crypto to trade the markets.
Right. Smaller accounts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look. Bottom line is, I mean, look, if you don't have skill, you can start with a big account, and it'll turn into a small account. So, and if you have really great skill, you can start with a small account and turn it into a big account, and a big account into a huge account. So the account capital is not the problem. The issue is the level of skill.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're the best trader in the world, I mean, I'm sure that I can give, my assistant, Mark Ritchie, I could give him $10,000, and I'll bet you in 10 years from now, he's a rich man, so, and if I gave him 100,000 or $1 million, he'd be even much richer. But I can give, there's certain friends of mine and members of my family that I'm sure if I gave them $1 million today, they'd be broke in a couple of years trading. So, or maybe even much sooner. So again, like I said before, you got to get the knowledge, you got to get the training, and then money's the least of the problems. That's what everybody's worrying about, the money. And that's one of the early things that I did after years and years of not doing well. You talked about failure. I said, you know what? I'm going to stop worrying about this money, because I was like just keeping score and going, oh, every year I didn't do well. Oh my God, I'm just so behind the curve. And, and I just felt like I was getting further. I was like in the ocean, just floating further and further away from land, when in fact I was getting closer and closer, because I was getting experience and I was making all the mistakes, but it didn't feel that way. So what I did was I said, I'm just not even going to keep score. I'm not even going to worry about how much I took off my screen. You had that little ticker. This is when I finally started getting quotes, and they had the little ticker in there at the bottom where you can see like your count of value and how much you're up or down. A lot of people have that on their screen, and all day they watch it. And then as it starts going against them, that's how they get panicky, when they start seeing, that number. I took that off my screen. I stopped looking like daily my P&L, and I just said, let me just concentrate on making really great decisions and being the best trader I can be. And my goal was to be the best trader in the world and to make every single trading decision a quality decision. I said, I'm just going to focus on the process and getting this process down and breaking it down into each individual thing. Okay, am I buying perfect? All right, at the right spot? Is my stop tight enough? And just worrying about those things. When I started just getting those right, all of a sudden the money started coming in, and I started making money, and my capital grew. And I took a very small amount of money and turned it into a very large amount of money.
Yeah. So, let me elaborate that question further. That a lot of new people who have small capital, they are using instruments like options to trade.
Right.
Those options have potential to absorb smaller capital. Do you think that's a good idea, or one should only focus on cash market?
I meant to talk about the options, and I forgot you said that. Yeah, it's a very good question, because you're right. There's, when you have the smaller account, you start thinking you need to use leverage, and so you start gravitating to those products, and you start using, much more risky things. The problem with options is, and I know there's some people out there that do well with options, but the facts is that 99.9% don't and will never will, because options for most is a sucker's bet. You have so many things working against you. You've got time value, you've got the spreads, you've got the premium. The real problem is the options market is just like going to the horse track. When you go to the horse track, you bet on it's say 10 minutes before post. The horse is 8-1. You bet it at 8-1, right? Now, 10 minutes later, the gate opens, the horses come out. Guess what? The horse goes off at even money. Imagine that. You were promised 8-1, but you got even money. Now, because based on the betting, they changed the odds. How nice it must be to be on the other side and change the odds, take people's money and then change the odds based on how the money's laid. So that's what the options market does with premium. So as the stock becomes more volatile and things happen with the price of the stock, now the premium balloons, all right, or shrinks, and that's why options are so difficult. And to answer your question, new traders should absolutely stay away from options and any type of leverage whatsoever until you can double your capital, on a cash basis. You have no business using, margin or certainly not using options.
Sure.
Now, I used options very early on, but I could tell you that all the returns that you read about and all the success I've had, none of it comes from options.